Call the June 9th, 2025 regular meeting of the Wappinger Town Board to order. May the clerk please call the roll.
Councilman Beal, Councilwoman Tina,
Here.
Councilman Phillips,
Here.
Councilman Casella,
Here.
and Supervisor Cappuccini.
Here, in just a moment, we'll ask you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and that'll be followed by an invocation led by our good friend Father Alex from the Zion Episcopal Church in the village of Wappingers Falls, and that'll be followed by a moment of silent meditation. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In my tradition, when the leader of prayer says, "The Lord be with you," the respondents say, "Also with you." Bless you. The Lord be with you.
Also with you.
Let us pray. Gracious God, Heavenly Father, you are the author of wisdom, the author of truth, the author of righteousness. And therefore, as we conduct business this evening, we ask you to bless us with wisdom and truth and righteousness. Help us, Lord, to listen to your voice. Help us to understand your will for Wappingers Falls and beyond, and guide our footsteps on the path of justice. And all these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. With that, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. I'll second it.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Do I have a motion to acknowledge the minutes from the May 27th, 2025 Town Board meeting?
I'll move it. Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. At this time, do I have a motion to open the public portion of our agenda?
Move. Second.
Moved by Councilman Beal, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to speak on agenda items, we ask that you come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Hello, Jessica Sarantonio, 1 Doyle Drive, President of the Friends of Carnwath. Just here to support what's on the agenda for the grant application today. I hope that that is genuinely considered by all board members. The momentum around the park and all it has to offer has really grown quite a bit. And we're looking forward to some next steps there. So just understanding what is what we got to do next. So thank you all.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no further public comment, do I have a motion to close the public
I'll
portion?
make that motion.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilwoman Bettina. All in favor? Aye. Public portion is now closed. Keeping along the lines of that public comment, we're moving along to, we have a non-consent themed agenda here this meeting. Our first resolution is Resolution 2025-117. A resolution to apply for funding for the 2025 New York State Consolidated Funding Application Environmental Protection Fund Grant Program for Parks, Preservation, and Historic Preservation, Carnwath Manor Feasibility Study and Preliminary Engineering Project. Do I have a motion for discussion?
Move. Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. Thank you, folks. Obviously, last year, we had deliberations surrounding a potential public-private partnership out at Carnwath Farms that would have taken on the manor there and converted that into a 25-bedroom boutique hotel. I listened to the colleagues, the comments of my colleagues on the dais. Councilwoman Bettina called for engineering studies. Councilman Phillips and Casella also called for additional studies and evaluations of the property. So in trying not to be tone deaf to that, I wanted to have the next steps for anything out there to be in line with what the town board was thinking, and that would be obviously to do an analysis of the existing structure there. I would like to note that to Ms. Sarantonio's point, momentum is growing out at that park. Councilman Casella joined us for the 25th anniversary celebration, which we recognized former Supervisor Connie Smith, and as you can see here on the television screens, we had quite a few people out there, and the Sports Museum's grand opening brought in 230 people. The State of the Town address, Carnwath Community Farming continues to have more and more events out there. And as we as a town continue to improve our parks and recreation throughout Wappinger, one common question we keep hearing as people show up at these improved facilities is, well, what are you going to do with that? And I want to make it clear that it's not the intent of the town of Wappinger to spend millions and millions and millions, or really any money, into a restoration project or to run a hotel, but essentially get us in a position that we are best fit to find that public-private partnership for the future. This is obviously something that has been talked about for many administrations, and coming up with a solid plan that piggybacks with that master plan from 2007 is what we're looking at. I sought the advice of our town attorney, Mike Ligori, and our engineer, Larry Paggi, as what we think next steps should be. Because obviously when people show up to our new chapel event space, people show up to the Sports Museum, they are approached with that structure there. And obviously we want to continue to go out and find that potential public-private partnership in the future. How do we get ourselves in the best position to find that next person? And so it was at the advice really of our professionals that we go out and seek some sort of funding, grant funding, that would provide that sort of study, that would provide that analysis, that would alleviate the concerns of the town board, and essentially be a one-stop shop package that we can take to any potential private investor and essentially market that structure to whoever may be interested. The idea, again, is not for this to sit in decay, and obviously as we have made some solid investments through grant funding out there, people are showing up to the property, they're getting excited to use the space. We want to make sure that we're coming up with a game plan for everything here. So essentially, this very wordy titled resolution would be requesting the permission of the town board for us to apply for a grant. I included the maximum amount of funding possible in this resolution, which is $675,000, which is something that we are not going to be anywhere near for any sort of study. And it calls for a 50% match to that. So let's say if the study went out and it was $10,000, the town are responsible for 50% of that. The idea would be that the town would not be committed to really anything except for authorizing us to move forward with this grant application. The next step, if it's adopted by the town board, would be for the town to go out for essentially an RFQ for those professionals that specialize in 19th century brick structures of this time frame. We would then receive quotes and estimates. If they are beyond the interest of the town board, we don't move forward with that project. There is no obligation on the town to move forward, to accept any funds or anything like that. And of course, council can, opine on this if we'd like. This is essentially allowing us to move forward with an application, no different than any other application that we've done, whether that's for water or sewer plants. We've received letters of support, which, obviously is something that we've done for our water and sewer treatment plants and other grants as well. So of course we wanted to have an open dialogue up here on the dais to see, what the thoughts are of the town board. Again, this would not be binding us to anything. This would allow us to apply for grant funding, come up with a package, and allow us to continue to try to promote this building for an alternative use.
I have two questions for Larry and Mike. In the second to last paragraph, we have to establish a capital account. Do we have to fund that at this time?
No, it's only if you get awarded the grant.
Okay, and I guess the biggest question, Larry, do you have a ballpark figure, what a study like this would cost the town? Ballpark? Shot in the dark.
So if you're looking to, at a particular use, if you're looking for an architect to go in there and say, what would it take to make this building into what we want it to be? I'm not an architect. I'm going to tell you my experience in working with architects in projects where they have retained us as like site civil engineers to determine our aspect of it. That architect's going to have to go out and retain the services of sub-consultants, probably a structural engineer, I would imagine, probably mechanical, electrical engineers to work with them to do that evaluation so that they can give you a real number on what it's going to take to make this building habitable for the intended use. If I had to throw a dart at that, I would say you're probably, a study's probably in the $50,000 to $75,000 range.
Thank you.
So just a couple of comments. So the 675K, it's a matching grant, so we'd be responsible if we ever got 675 or whatever the dollar amount is, you're responsible for getting an equal amount. So if we put 675, we'd be responsible for 675.
And we are not applying for 675. I just want to make sure that that is not out in the public, Councilman, that we are not applying.
So you're going for the maximum request, so.
We are going for exactly what Mr. Paggi noted was for the cost for an engineering study. That's why the next step would be obviously to get that quote and go from there. So we're looking at potentially a $75,000 grant.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that that's out there.
I'm just looking at because it says here that we're eligible for it, and I understand that we had three different officials saying that they were in agreement. I think that was more for the application of the grant versus necessarily supporting. And again, this is a standard letter that they send out, so that was good to know that they're behind this. And again, it's good to know that we're just applying for it, and down the road we're going to have an opportunity to be able to say whether we're for it or against, depending on the price. If it's 75K, it's pretty simple. But if it's 500K or something, I think it's something we need to take a little more closely, and I think we'll do that. Again, it sounds like we've got all the bases covered because you covered some of the concerns I had. Being able to come back at some point in time and say yay or nay as to whether you're going to accept the grant. And also taking a look at, do we need to put anything else in the resolution as far as, that we're waiting for the estimates. So do we have any idea when the estimates are coming?
So once we go and either adopt or decline this resolution, the LaBerge Group, who has been working with us on this, has already started to put feelers out and find specific groups that deal with buildings such as this. They would then reach out to them, encourage them to respond to the RFQ, so we would see a response probably within the next 2 weeks, I would imagine.
Well, I understand we have a short runway until the end of July to actually submit the application, so we don't have a whole lot of time left over to do this. So hopefully we get the RFQs in relatively soon. Okay.
Thank you, Councilman.
Your engineering review, so to speak, would also identify if the building poses a safety issue
So the consultant...
right now with the
consult-
people that are coming to that area.
I think that should be something you should request.
Then
in your
I
study.
want to go on the record
If
that
there's
I'm
any-
requesting that right now.
Yeah, if there's anything that you're concerned about immediately, that be identified in there. Is there any needs to stabilize it until such work would be performed? And that's actually a good point, because that could be considered in the cost of future development is making the building
Safe.
safe until such time that it can, monies can be achieved.
If we decide to go forward. But right
Right.
now, my issue is with the safety with people that do come to visit our sports museum, the chapel, and everything within that vicinity, if they are safe.
Right. I don't know if there's a way to word the
Mike.
proposal in such a way, I think the RFQs are already out, but maybe if you determine that you're going to negotiate with an architect, maybe there's a way that you could structure if you were going to move forward with it, structure their contract in a way that there are certain thresholds that you only proceed to one level, and if it looks like it's making sense, you go to the next, and then you go to the next.
Well, I would imagine that before they would start talking about anything like that, and
Right.
based on my conversations with LaBerge on this grant, has been, first and foremost is, the structural stability of the building. That's first and foremost, is, go over exactly what are the concerns as of right now, and then obviously develop some sort of plan for after the fact. But no, it would be to evaluate existing conditions, because that's what we're essentially marketing to someone. The town's not going to be making any additional investments into it. It's essentially going over the current conditions and providing that in a document to anyone that would be interested.
So on the other end, if everything turns out to everybody's liking, and favorably considered, there may be one additional step that an architect may be able to provide that could assist the town in pursuing its marketing of it, maybe in the development of some preliminary plans to show, to be able to provide some type of a concept plan too. So, again, once you have your RFQs in and you look like you have an architect that you can work with before you just decide on a final number with that architect, maybe have those conversations with LaBerge and the architect to see if you can put that flexibility into that agreement if you decide to move forward.
Yeah.
Right, and the other thing is, our insurance company, I believe, is Marshall and Sterling for the town buildings.
Yes.
Are they aware of the condition of that building?
Yes,
And they have gone out there lately?
I go out there every year with them, Councilwoman, as well as our contact at NYMER, and we inspect all town facilities. We just completed that again this year, so they're aware. So we went from everywhere from Carnwath to the Highway Department, all of our big buildings.
I would like to see the report on that building from them, please.
They did not go into the building, they went around the building, so they are aware, and it's noted as a vacant structure on our insurance coverage.
In the condition that it is, they feel it's fine, there's no safety issues?
No,
That's what I'm asking.
Why
no.
don't we bisect this conversation from the grant to your concern?
I'm just afraid, there's a lot of people that walk around out there, and the building's not stable.
Oh, is it now? I didn't know that. I didn't know that, Councilwoman.
Well, there was a fence around it, wasn't there?
Yes, part of that fence came down 3 years ago.
But there was a fence up for it, wasn't it?
And also,
it's locked.
don't forget, actually, throughout your whole tenure, when your brother was here too, they actually shrunk the size of that fence, and you can drive alongside that building to get to the sports museum.
I'm
so-
looking at, for right now,
Yes.
for the constituents right now that are visiting the chapel
Yeah.
and the museum, I want to make sure they're safe.
Yes, yes, everyone is safe.
So that's what I'm asking.
All right, but that question really isn't relevant to what the discussion on the grant. That should just be a
Yes, but I
separate
want that included. Shouldn't that be included in the grant if the building should be looked at for safety?
Well, that's the
what we
essence
just
of the
said.
feasibility analysis. That's the whole point. It's part of the point of hiring professionals to do a feasibility analysis, is that you'll have a current condition analysis.
So we should have that in 2 weeks. is
No,
what you're saying.
no, you're not going to, no, the purpose of the grant is to hire the professionals to then go do that work. And that's why I'm suggesting that if you have a concern for safety under the current conditions and its current operation, that be a separate conversation immediately after or
Then that's
under
fine,
new
then we'll
business.
have that.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
I think that's important for the residents of the area. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on the grant?
Excuse me.
So I
Can I
think
get you water or anything?
No, thank you.
I think we
It's very
just,
thoughtful.
I'm not against seeking grant funding here. We have to be very cognizant of any town obligation with respect to cash match, right? So obviously, I don't want to hold up the process, though, because I think there is a part two to this, obviously, right? So we move forward, we create the proposals. I do like the fact that conceptuals should be considered, right? so we can see what the vision of the architect may or may not be. So I'm not against this. However, we must, from a fiduciary standpoint, keep at the front of our minds prior to moving forward with any specific proposal what the obligation of the town is and how we can cover that with grant funding, perhaps from another grant resource. So
Absolutely.
I have no objection to moving forward for the purposes of this study. I do also have concerns with respect to safety. It's a separate conversation. I do think that the progress that has occurred on that site, as I said at the last meeting, does create a level of momentum, which I think is needed. I have many thoughts about that property that can provide value, but the thoughts that I have about that property are day two projects, right? We got to get past the main day one project of making these existing structures usable, and then we can talk about some interesting things we've talked about from brainstorming. So
Absolutely.
I don't have an objection to this unless one of my colleagues wants to have further discussion. In this form, based on the discussion, I have no objection to this resolution.
I don't either.
Go ahead. So I think some of the concerns that I had, you alleviated a lot of those by saying there's follow-on processes. So this is not the end process here. This is just for the grant application only. Again, we've got other pieces we're going to take a look at, and again, we'll see what the estimates come up with, and then from there, we'll make a determination.
Right.
But this is just the first step, so I'm good with this too.
Yeah, and ultimately, it'll resolve into a project, what's called a project agreement with ORPS. And obviously, you'd be voting on that project agreement because that's the essence of the grant agreement. Once, so you have your, you've been awarded the grant, right? And then you have we have these RFQs first, and then those will get submitted as part of the application. And if the grant gets awarded, then that gets boiled down into a project agreement. You're going to have to authorize or not authorize the project agreement. And in effect, that's the
Process.
yeah, and that's the security that you guys have to say, okay, look, we're not just signing on for endless amounts of money.
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
And that's not the intent. And I appreciate what Councilman Beal had noted, too, that something as simple as renderings, can really go such a long way in terms of marketing the property. The idea is, folks, again, this is sat for 20-plus years, again, wasting away as a former shell of itself. And if the town, we as a town board have the opportunity to turn things around there, again, can piggyback on the momentum that's happening across all of our parks and find that partner that would be willing to come in with us on this site and really turn that around, that would be huge for the residents. So I appreciate, it sounds like we have a consensus to move forward. I'd like to just call a vote of all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much, folks. We appreciate it, and we'll continue to keep everyone updated on the progress of the grant. Moving along to our second resolution, Resolution 2025-118,
Excuse me?
resolution amending fee schedule for Town of Wappinger parks and recreation facilities. Do I have a motion for discussion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Councilman Beal.
I'll second it.
Second by Councilman Casella. We obviously had a robust conversation at our last meeting. Councilman Phillips brought up a number of amendments specific to the Carnwath Chapel. Again, for the public's insight on this, we have new facilities that have come online, obviously, between the new stage and the chapel at Carnwath Farms. So we need to obviously set fee schedules behind them. We've had discussions as a town board about fee schedules and structures and what is appropriate. Has everyone had a chance to look at them? Does anyone have any amendments to this? Again, I just want to show to the screen here, obviously this is the status of our new stage, which is used at Community Day. So a little different than our old band shell, right, Councilman Casella? It's a little different. And obviously we want to make sure that we have a structure that accommodates our nonprofits, our residents that want to use it, but also for the big-name musical acts that would come in, potentially, we obviously need to structure something that is appropriate. And then the chapel, I wanted to show everyone the progress as well of the chapel, which has been completed following the State of the Town address there. Thank you, Councilman Casella, for coming to the Sports Museum opening there in that picture.
So I do have some concerns with some of the fees here. I think some of them are a little bit high, and I think that the town board probably needs a little more time to have discussion on this, because I don't think we've all had an opportunity to necessarily take a look and agree on some of these fee schedules. I know we talked about them last time, but I think it makes more sense tonight to probably table this. Let's have a discussion where everybody has an opportunity, so that the next meeting we're able to sit there and actually talk about the fees rather than having a discussion up on the dais. I think it's
Councilman Beal, I know that you had some opinions from the last meeting. Did you have a chance to ponder any of those? Or?
Yeah, honestly, I think our price point for evening events in the chapel is unreasonable for the average family.
Would you like to make any amendments? I mean, because I do agree the evening event can be lowered.
So I actually have a motion on the dais to table it.
You did
I
not
agree.
make a motion.
I make a motion to table it.
I second.
Oh. So there's a motion second to table. On the discussion to table, if you'd like to opine.
Just one point in this. If there are no issues with the fees outside of the Carnwath pricing, we have some things that are very close on the horizon that we really kind of need the Schlothouse stage prices finalized for, some of those vendor event things finalized for, some of the additional staff, that really every section outside of that Carnwath Chapel one, we have things very soon that we need to get those in place for. So.
I would also disagree with that too, because we do continue to get inquiries almost weekly on the chapel as well, so both are pressing. And that's why I was hoping, rather than doing a motion to table, if Councilman Beal had an opinion for just the evening hours for the chapel, I don't see why we couldn't talk about that.
I would just remind the board, I got a couple of phone calls regarding it, reminding me that the chapel belongs to the residents of the town of Wappingers. And we're not in the banquet hall business. And to charge a resident $5,000 to rent for a party is kind of a slap in their face, because they paid to build it or own it.
Well,
So
don't
I would
forget, that was grant funding from the county and the
I
state.
would just
so.
remind all of us, and I know I came up with the figures, and it was a kick in my butt about it, because they're 100% right. To Councilman Beal's point, we're too expensive, but I think we should have this conversation
Well,
going
fine.
forward.
Okay.
You
Entirely.
made a motion?
It's already moved
I
and
second.
seconded.
But let's, we're going to do this. Let's make sure we have a plan that we're going to talk about this. So you're not doing it on the dais, but let's make sure we come to some kind of agreement, so we're not up here again next meeting going,
I agree.
7,500 is too much.
I agree. We had 2 weeks between the last meeting. I was hoping that we could move things along, because I do agree it's expensive. We could have obviously, had some conversations, so.
Just also, we have to be careful comparing this to Locust Grove, as Locust Grove is not taxpayer-owned.
That's correct.
So, I agree with the concept. Let me just say that. I agree with, we'll just say the broader business plan. I agree there. We just have to, I believe we just have to dig in on some of this. And I don't have some of the, answers or even some of the questions that I may have at this point. So rather than doing it right here on the dais, I think offline might be better. I don't have an objection, though, to entertain a portion of this with respect to other venues, if that's something the board wants to do. For example, I have no issue with the Castle Point Pavilion, and this is just me, so if you have an issue, I'm not trying to encourage you to just support it.
Before you hop in on this, Councilman Casella, would you like to rescind your motion to table the resolution? Or would you like that to continue moving?
I want that to continue unless there's a definite need. I'll defer to you. Do you have a definite need in the next 2 weeks?
We have a gentleman who's looking for an answer, a nonprofit that's looking for an answer from us pretty much within the next couple of days. If the board would like to table this but is feeling pretty confident that the Schlott House rates are not going to change between now and the next meeting, I can discuss those specific rates with him, and then we can lock it in at a later date. I do just have a gentleman waiting on an answer for me about the stage.
So the only issue I have with that is if we start doing that, we're going to open everything else up.
Exactly.
And I don't want to have that conversation. We're not ready to have that conversation.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a motion second to table. All in favor? Aye. The resolution is tabled, and it will be on the next agenda, so I would hope that if you have any concerns or comments, you send an email out, and we'll get this moving along.
Okay.
Thank you, folks. Resolution 2025-119, a resolution adopting policy on employee records. Do I have a motion for discussion?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilwoman Bettina. Essentially, folks, the state of New York has adopted new legislation regarding foiling of employee records. This is at the advice of Labor Council to get into compliance with the New York state law.
Who is making this recommendation from Labor Council?
That would be Nate, our Labor Council.
So I'm not understanding, and maybe, Mike, you can help paint this picture a little better. New York Public Officers Law 87-6 deals with law enforcement employees, not municipal employees.
No, hang on a second.
The definitions that are articulated here are not consistent with the statute.
All right, so this isn't, I'm not proposing this. I know, you know, in our recent experience where we had this come up, we did comply with FOIL, which requires a notice to the employee or former employee prior to the release of any information that's subject to FOIL. So we do comply, but Bill, I can't speak to the definitions.
We can get a better opinion if we'd like, because I was uncomfortable with certain aspects of it as well, so we can get a better grasp on this.
Yeah, do you want to put it over and then we'll...
Yeah, we can table it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we haven't done anything out of compliance?
No, we haven't. I think that the concern was that we didn't have a policy
Understood.
internally.
Yeah. I mean, our policy really is to comply with FOIL.
Well, yeah, right? That's we just had nothing in writing.
But look, I don't want to step on Labor Council's toes.
No.
I just kind of left it in Labor Council's lane, so I really didn't get into the weeds in the resolution. But,
No, I still had questions as well, too, so.
but yeah, look, I know we are in compliance with the law when we do have to do that, which is rare.
Yes.
You know, it came up, unfortunately, recently, and we did what we were supposed to do without repercussion.
And that rose the concern there
Yeah,
that we
understood.
continue to have these FOIL requests for employee records.
Yeah.
And we did not have anything, obviously, within the employee manual or in the books. We do the right thing. We follow the
we do it,
policy.
yeah.
We just had nothing specific for the town of Wappinger.
Well, I do have concerns and reservations with respect to providing broad complaints, allegations, and charges against any town employee. I also have concerns and reservations about providing the name of the employee complained or charged thereof. I also have objections and reservations about providing the transcript of any disciplinary trial or hearing, including exhibits introduced at such trial or hearing of a town employee.
Yeah, but you don't, it doesn't, you might have an issue with
I'm voicing my objection because I
Yeah.
don't necessarily agree with sharing complaints against an employee that have not been properly shown due process when you have complaints against employees that don't necessarily show dispositions of the outcome of that complaint.
So our recent experience was, and what the law requires is that if there is a disclosure, so for instance, we released records back in January or February, and what the law required was that if there were allegations that were not proven, then you did not provide even the existence of those allegations, because then what happens is FOIL gets used as a sword instead of a shield.
Right.
And so what we did in the instance that we experienced was, we had 750 pages of transcript that we had to go back into and redact. With the time, the place, every single person involved with the allegation that was unproven. And it was, look, I don't disagree with you. It's chilling, okay? It has a chilling effect, right? Because what it does is it for those employees that do complain, let's say it's a, quote unquote whistleblower complaint, right? So what happens to the whistleblower, right? If you don't have protection for the whistleblower, if you have to provide all this information under FOIL, then no one is going to complain, because the natural concern is for retaliation. And so in what we lived, right, our lived experience under this was we had a hearing. There was a conclusion that was adopted by a hearing officer. And let's say there were 5 allegations, and 3 of them were proven and 2 of them weren't. So what the law required was that we were only to disclose what was proven, and so what we ended up doing was going back and redacting line by line by line by line all the names of the people, or the places where things occurred. So the courts have recognized the very concern that you're articulating, but it's not perfect, that's for sure.
Right, but again, the section of law that we're referring to here in this resolution is New York State Public Officers Law, Section 87, Sub 6, which talks specifically about law enforcement disciplinary records, okay? And it talks about law enforcement disciplinary proceedings. It also categorizes law enforcement personnel as those that work for a police agency or department, a sheriff's department, the Department of Corrections and Community Services, a local Department of Corrections, local probation, and a fire department, as well as firefighter paramedics. They are categorizing and defining as law enforcement. So this entire section of law, okay, that was moved recently, I think it was September of '24, I would argue had an ulterior motive with respect to why it was adopted. I don't support us making any changes referencing that section of law until I get further opinions on this, because as I read about this, it's certainly not fair-minded legislation. There is certainly an ulterior motive, in my opinion, with respect to this section of law, which doesn't surprise me coming from the state legislature in New York State. So I want additional opinions on this. I want to ensure that our employees are protected. I also want to ensure that our employees who fall within the parameters and provisions of a collective bargaining agreement are protected, and that there's levels of due process ensured by this town.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilman. And again, to Mr. Lugori's point, we are doing this. We are essentially following the law. But again, the state of New York does allow for a lot of these essentially loopholes that would allow these documents to be accessed by the public.
And look, the most recent one, I think we were at the point where we had just, we were going to say, just sue us. Yeah. And they have the opportunity to, and we have to pay their legal fees. We try to do the right thing. We're incentivized to do that for the benefit of our employees. But, we still have to follow the law.
And don't get me wrong, I am all for transparency. I agree. However, these types of documents have been and will be taken out of context and used for nefarious purposes. It's already documented across this state.
Thank you, Councilman. So I would like to make a motion to table Resolution 2025-119.
I'll second it.
Second by Councilman Beal. All in favor? Aye. Tabled. Okay. Moving along to Resolution 2025-120, resolution adopting policy in accordance with New York State Labor Law 206-C. Do I have a motion for discussion?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. This is something that was raised recently amongst town employees, that the town does not have a policy when it comes to expressing mothers after they've recently given birth. This policy would dictate, obviously, guidelines surrounding that and be in accordance with New York State law.
Well, we certainly have to accommodate mothers.
Nursing.
Has to be done. I agree that we, and we're talking about, for folks that are wondering what we're talking about, is basically mothers that are producing breast milk that need to be given the opportunity to do that. And I have to deal with this in my full-time employment as well, and we have a designated area that's a private area that the individual has the option to lock if they want, so nobody can walk in during that time period. I believe we have the facilities to accommodate that right now.
Correct.
And I want to ensure that any new mothers don't feel as though they don't have that option.
Correct.
So I'll obviously be supporting this.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
No.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you very much. The motion passes. Resolution 2025-121, resolution authorizing the town supervisor to execute amendment to land lease agreement between ACC Tower Sub, LLC, and the town of Wappinger. Do I have a motion for discussion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. A few weeks ago on the discussion, I received correspondence from American Tower, who is our tenant for the cell tower here at Wappinger Town Hall. In regards to upping their lease agreement. Essentially, they gave us two options. One was a lump sum, and then the other one was an escalated rent and a sign-on bonus. Both were discussed by the town board. I believe that we opted for the one that was an increase in monthly rent with the lump sum as a sign-on bonus. If there's any further discussion on this, I think that this is a good deal that we negotiated on behalf of the town and something that we can move forward.
The only question I have is, this says this ends March 2026. Now, we're doing the lease now. It's essentially June. Can we extend that another 3 months so it goes to?
So this is just the amendment on the lease.
Okay.
The actual lease itself expires 2026. Then we'd go into negotiations again for the full term lease.
And it's a pretty significant increase, so it's definitely worth it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I mean, dealing with tower sites on a daily basis, which I have 17 locations that we're responsible for or are building right this moment. It's important that we be in a position where we have a good deal for the taxpayers. We have a commodity right here on this campus, and I appreciate you guys getting us to the finish line.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, this is not to be confused with the Rockingham Park cell tower, which we had conversations about. That is just getting an additional provider on there. And we did sign off the owner's consent for that to go through the planning board. So, all right, any further discussion?
No.
Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
So I do have a different question. So we're putting up one of these cell towers, and we have Spook Hill Road as an example.
Yes.
Hopefully that's the next one that's going to go up, because the cell service over there is terrible.
Yes, so as I spoke to you today, the town, we obviously move forward with the small-scale cellular. That's something that we have been pushing for in the town, as no one wants to see these 130-foot-tall monopoles anymore. So we've been bringing in small-scale cellular, which is essentially a cylinder that is affixed to a telephone pole and triangulates between the other cell towers. It adds additional cell coverage. We did sign on at the beginning of last year and gave the approvals for one located at Spook Hill Road. which will help the issue. Councilman Giselle and I, it probably took 15 minutes for us to finally hear each other today on the phone. And then one on Kent Road. We are looking to add one as well in the Wildwood area, as there's been a few significant concerns out there. But again, folks, this is something that we are mercy to the cellular providers with. As much as I'd love to be able to call up Verizon and say, hey, we need this done, this is something that's taken well over a year for them to really act on. So today we just signed over banking information for them that they can provide the real estate taxes on that site to the town. So it's slowly moving along, but...
Thank you for the update.
No problem.
Let's not forget with cell sites, public safety should be paramount, right? Most folks are using cell phones as their primary communication for 911 calls. So certainly any improvement to that fabric is certainly appreciated.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, and the final resolution, 2025-122, correspondence log. Move.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Beal, second by Councilwoman Bettina. All in favor? Aye. And for items for special consideration, new business, folks, we have some good news to report from the Spook Hill Park perspective. I spoke with Councilman Phillips today that Buildings and Grounds is completing the jogging track there and hauling away the construction fencing and the former wooden crates that are out there. Also would like to give a special shout out to our two trail wardens that are in the audience today, John Weber and Phil, for going out and clearing the pedestrian easement from Spook Hill Park out to Nancy Aline, which will cut down on children pedestrian traffic on Spook Hill Road, which we do not want. So by making these pedestrian corridors, these trails available to our residents is what we're trying to promote into our neighborhoods. And I appreciate you guys going out there with the highway department and pulling out a shopping cart and all sorts of debris in the middle of that neighborhood. So thank you for getting that done. Also this week, the new pavilion renovations at a Castle Point are going on. And so the concrete is being poured this week, obviously weather permitting. Councilman Casella and I have had conversations with Mr. Paggi's office about additional drainage at Schlatthaus Park, especially in the area around the stage affecting Meadowbrook Farms. So we continue to have conversations there. Sal and I and Christian Paggi, I think, came up with a really good game plan that we'd be able to stop that issue over there. But with that, I'd like to turn it over to the First Ward.
So thank you. Just a shout out to our volunteer firefighters who responded to 176 Old Route 9 South down by NNS and Cooper Road for a report of a brush fire that ended up being an entire pile of garbage on fire that actually spread to a garage and burned the garage down, a 20 by 20 garage, took out an RV and almost burned the house down. But luckily they were able to get that contained very quickly. The side of the house did melt, but the house didn't burn down because of the quick action of Houstonville, Village of Fishkill, New Hackensack, responding initially on that fire, and that was in the middle of the day. So, of course, in the middle of the day, generally speaking, there's less personnel available, but luckily that day there was sufficient personnel to get that taken care of very quickly. That could have been a bad situation. I've had some questions about the ambulance that is often visible at Route 9 at Old Hopewell Road now. That's a Dutchess County supplemental EMS resource that is posted at that location quite often due to the call volume in southern Dutchess County. So we here in the town of Wappinger have 2 ALS ambulances on in the day and 1 on the overnight. The Village of Wappingers Falls has an ALS ambulance on 24/7 as well. But what happens is during times of significant call volume, many of the resources in southern Dutchess become depleted, and that ambulance, as you see it, is basically an insurance policy that we have BLS pre-hospital care in the southern Dutchess County area. So that ambulance, there's 2 BLS ambulances in the county and an ALS fly car that are part of the county's supplemental EMS program, but that one is often visible at 9 and Old Hopewell. They need to stay in the vicinity of the intersection, so you may see them in the Park Plaza, you may see them in the Citgo station, you may see them in the Sergeant Palmatier Park parking lot. They have to stay within that intersection. They can't go over here because it defeats the purpose if they're over here at this station, sitting inside the station. They need to be on post in that vicinity. So again, that is another resource that is available to not only Southern Dutchess, but the town of Wappinger. If both of our units are out, that resource is there. So that's all I have this evening. Appreciate everything, all the hard work that happens here in the town at each of these events. Obviously, I can't make all of these events. It's even more challenging than ever before with now 2 sons playing soccer and 2 sons playing baseball at the same time, where we had rain every Saturday for the last 26 weeks or something like that. So it screws the entire schedule up. So then they end up booking all the games on top of each other, and coming directly from Robinson Lane here multiple times. I had to do a child swap outside here in the parking lot while handing off the kid from the karate so I could get in here while Joey's texting me, "Where are you?" So it's certainly a fun adventure having a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and we have to remember that it's family first at all times, right? We put a lot of time and passion into what we do here, and anytime I can incorporate my sons into it, I do, right? But again, as I grow and become more wise with my children, this is very important, but of course our family is the most important, right? And that's why I was late tonight, so I apologize.
All good, all good. And I would like to give our building department a special shout out for showing up to that fire and being on scene.
Yes.
And assisting the volunteer fire companies that day.
Thank you.
I have a shout out to the ambulance, EMS. We had an incident where I live, and they're very helpful to a senior citizen, and they're just outstanding. And she was so happy. She really was. She had been bitten by a bee.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Yeah, and they were there, and they helped her, and everything. I couldn't ask for anything better. They were very professional. They always are.
We'll pass that on to them.
See, please.
Absolutely.
June 11th is Celebrate Flag Day, so get your flags out if you don't already have them out. And June 15th is Celebrate Father's Day, so you guys are going to get all those gifts. And the longest day of the year in New York will be June 20th. The day will see the summer solstice, marking the start of summer, and the longest amount of daylight of the year, resulting over 15 years, I wish, hours of daylight. And hopefully it'll be sunshine and not
please.
rain.
Right.
Because I know we're all getting rained out, and the crops are hurting, the flowers are hurting, we're hurting. But hopefully the sun will be out soon. School will be getting out this month. Be careful. The kids will be out and about. Be very careful when you're driving. They're going to be out there on their bikes or whatever. Be safe. Let's look forward to the summer beginning. Thank you. And shout out to everybody who works in the town, the building department, everybody. They do an outrageously good job. And the clerk's office. Thank you.
Yeah, even Joe does a great job.
And our consultants. Thank you.
Councilman
you.
Phillips?
Just thank you so much for the updates on Spook Hill and the cell phone service.
Yes.
It seems to be, my ward seems to be the worst cell phone service in this town.
It's the middle of the town, I guess,
So that's good news, so thank you.
No problem, Councilman. Councilman Casella?
Sure. So Little League tournament happened this weekend. Actually, it was only a half a day on Saturday. They got flooded out. But I got to tell you, Jeff Tomlin's, Mike Kotax did a great job out there on the fields. They were out there at 4 o'clock in the morning, fixing the fields up, trying to get them ready. So we did get in the first set of games. It's unfortunate they weren't able to get them, but there was an outstanding crew out there that really helped out. Our building department was out there, manning traffic, et cetera, and did an outstanding job making sure people got in and out. Next tournament is in August, so we've got to take a look at lessons learned. Need to do a couple things a little bit different, but again, I think it's going to be an exciting time for the tournament itself. Give a shout out to the Wappinger Historical Society. They have the gala this Friday, so if you have not signed up yet, it's a good time to sign up for that.
Hope to see everyone there. It'll be a great time.
We've had a number of water issues, as you can imagine, with all the rain and everything else we've had. So I want to thank Larry Poggi, Christian Poggi, our building department, because we've had a number of issues where they've come out on Friday, they were out there early Sunday, as well as myself, trying to calm some of the neighbors, Schlatt House Park, Brothers Road, we had a number of issues, Sherwood Heights, had a number of issues there. So again, outstanding job, we still got work to go. We've got some ideas we want to do to try to help the residents that are getting flooded. I just got 2 more calls today, so I'll be talking to you again. Thank you, Larry, but again, we're being pretty proactive. We're also working on some issues where we're cleaning up a number of properties. We've got a couple on Vanderwater we're looking at, and we've got a couple on 376. So again, some issues where we actually, Topple Hill 376, we cleaned that property up really nice, and we're going to continue to work. We cleaned up one up on Dogwood Hills as well. So again, those are the kind of things we're working on. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, we're meeting Craftco. So Craftco is the one who did the resurfacing for the tennis courts and the pickleball courts. We're going to meet them tomorrow. We've got some issues where there's some warranty issues where we're getting some cracks in the tennis courts. So hopefully they're going to give us an idea of when they're going to be able to fix it. And I know the supervisor brought up a couple of issues around some of the poles on the pickleball courts, so we're going to take a look at that as well. But again, I just want to thank Larry and Christian, because I bugged you guys a lot this weekend. Sent you videos, all kinds of stuff, and you guys, you pull through the flying colors, and you probably got tired. You said, oh no, he's calling again. But thank you very much. I do appreciate all your help and support. And again, expect a couple calls from me in the next couple of days. Thank you.
You've been warned. Thank you, Councilman. And to piggyback off of that, it's really our quality of life task force, I've dubbed it, between all of us, and staying on top of a number of these zombie homes, these properties that have really been abandoned, overgrown, or have vast piles of garbage and debris on them for decades. And we have been really focused on improving the quality of life of our residents, going out there, making community contact with property owners, and cleaning up sites. One in the center of town along the Route 9 corridor just had, I believe, 14 trucks removed from it the other day, and now has a plan for demolition. So a number of these eyesores have been going on for many years. We're taking care of, we're addressing them, and we're getting them removed. So.
Is Rite Aid still open, or is it closed?
Rite Aid at this time is still open. They are transferring everyone over to Walgreens. I have already been in contact, as I mentioned at the last meeting, with the property owner. The way that their lease agreement is structured is that they are not allowed to step foot on the property and maintain anything. That's why the grass is the way it is. That lease agreement will be coming to an end this month, and I've already given them a list of 3 different recommended landscapers that they can contact to go in and remediate that property.
I mean, that is just insane.
Yes.
It hasn't been mowed once, and there's a mass transit bus stop right there. People standing right next to the
It's dangerous.
That's right.
grass. That's
So we've been in contact.
okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Seeing no further business to come before the town board, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Michael, did you need to see us?
No.
Nope.
Actually,
You're all set?
Nope, you're all set now. No, we sent out the memo today.
Okay.
So you're all set.
Very good.
So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
I'll second it.
Moved by Councilman Beal, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks.